All right. What's up, everybody? All my people in Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, all the way to Staten Island, my home borough, Brooklyn. Back out with another video. This is going to be another entry into the greatest games ever series. It's been a while since we updated this series, but since Wild Card Weekend, I decided to cover one of the most famous and greatest wild card playoff games of all time, the 1992 AFC Wild Card game between the Houston Oilers, now known as the Tennessee Titans, and the Buffalo Bills, in a game that's simply known as the comeback. Up until Super Bowl 51, you could say this is the greatest comeback in NFL history because the Bills overcame a 32-point deficit to defeat the Houston Oilers. But before we get into all that, let's give a little backdrop on the two teams. First of all, in the early 90s, the Houston Oilers were one of the top offenses in the NFL, along with the 49ers and the West Coast offense and the Bills and their K-gun offense. The Houston Oilers were known as the run-and-shoot offense, led by this man right here, number one, future Hall of Famer quarterback Warren Moon. Had other star players on offense, such as Lorenzo Wright, the running back, Haywood Jeffries, their number one receiver, Ernest Givens, and future Hall of Famer guard Mike Munchak and Bruce Matthews. So one of the top offenses in all the NFL. They finished the season with a 10-6 record and, of course, made the playoffs, where they were going to go up against the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, the prior two seasons, 1990, 1991, they made it all the way to the Super Bowl and lost. Of course, they lost Super Bowl 25 because Scott Norwood missed the field goal, one of the greatest Super Bowls, the greatest games ever in NFL history. The Bills lost to my Giants. And then the next year, they lost 37-24 to one of the most underrated and arguably greatest team of all time, the 1991 Washington Redskins. I did a video on that. Put a link to it in the description down below. Or you can just find it. It's the most popular video on my channel. So all you got to do is go to videos and click popular. You'll see it. So going into this season, the Bills were hungrier more than ever. They were determined. They were hell-bent on winning a Super Bowl. And, of course, they had their key pieces, the Hall of Famers, such as quarterback Jim Kelly, running back Thurman Thomas, who was the 91 AP NFL MVP, Andre Reed, James Lofton. That's just the offense. On defense, they had NFL's all-time leading sacker and future Hall of Famer Bruce Smith and stud middle linebacker Darryl Talley. In week 2 of that season, the Bills traveled the old Candlestick Park to take on the 49ers and battled the West Coast offense versus the K-gun offense, one of the most famous games in NFL history, a game known as the no-punt game, the first game in NFL history where there were no punts occurred. That's how prolific both these offenses were. I mean, of course, we all know the Niners had Steve Young, Jerry Rice, Ricky Waters, so on and so forth, Brent Jones, John Taylor. We all know the names. And the Bills won this game 34-31 thanks to their future Hall of Fame running back Thurman Thomas in his game-winning touchdown. So a lot of people thought this was a potential Super Bowl preview, and it could have been, but 49ers obviously didn't make it to the Super Bowl that year. Anyway, the Bills finished the season 12-4, won the division, and late in the season, their star quarterback Jim Kelly got hurt, so he was going to miss Wild Card Weekend. And who was up? Their backup quarterback Frank Reich, who was a very, very good backup quarterback, by the way. Frank Reich was one of the best backup quarterbacks probably ever. If there was such a list, he's probably, top 10, top 15 backup quarterbacks ever. Anyway, the game starts, and everything goes the Oilers' way. Haywood Jeffries scores 2 touchdowns. Their small punt returner, pardon me. This brother's name escaped my mind. He scored a touchdown. This is Curtis Duncan. He scored a touchdown as well. The Oilers go out to a 28-3 lead in the first half. Sound familiar? At the start of the second half, Frank Reich threw a touchdown to cornerback Bubba McDowell, and all of a sudden it's 35-3 Oilers. And the Oilers were up celebrating big, and a lot of Bills fans were leaving the game early because that was going to be a blowout. But Frank Reich had different plans. First of all, their backup running back Kenneth Davis scored a touchdown to make it a 35-10 ball game. And then Frank Reich finds Don Beebe and makes it 35-17. All of a sudden, they started to get worried. But the star of this game, the MVP of this game, and I say this respectfully to Frank Reich, to me was Andre Reed. Andre Reed probably had the best performance of his career. He scored 3 not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns. Boom, boom, boom. 3 touchdowns, and the Bills to go up 38-35, and the Oilers late in the game to get a field goal to tie the game 38-38 and send it to overtime. And fans were supposedly jumping over the fence trying to get back in the stadium. You never leave a game early, bro. Never leave a game early. In overtime, the Bills had the ball. The Oilers was, of course, fumbled the ball. The Bills got it back. Frank Reich went out to hold for the kicker, Doug Christie. Doug Christie nailed the field goal, and the Bills won the game 41-38. In a game that's simply known as an NFL lore as the comeback, although the city of Houston and the Oilers fans just know it simply as the choke. This is how Houston got the name Choke City before, of course, the Houston Rockets and the NBA changed all of that. So this was one of the biggest choke, probably the biggest choke in NFL history. Up until the Falcons, you could say the Falcons choke was big, but this one was big. And of course, a couple years ago, the Colts were up 33-0 against the Vikings. The Vikings came back. Well, I believe the Vikings were up 33-0 and the Colts came back. Tell me how that game went in the conversation down below. I can't remember exactly. But, this was kind of the beginning of the end for the Oilers. The next season, the owner, Bud Adams, said, you guys have this season to win the Super Bowl, or I'm blowing up the team in 93. And, of course, the Oilers, they went 12-4. They lost to the Chiefs in the divisional round, led by old Joe Montana and Marcus Allen. And Bud Adams followed through on his threat, and he blew up the team. And then a few years later, the Oilers were out of Houston on their way to Tennessee. And Houston didn't have professional football for a few years until the Texans came about. So kind of sad, because it's kind of sad to think about a city lost their team, but they got the Texans now, so they're good. And by the way, it's real fucked up how whenever the Titans play the Houston Texans, they wear their throwback Tennessee Oilers jersey. That's a Hall of Fame troll move by the Titans organization. Like I said, this game went down to NFL lore. Like I said, it's probably the greatest wild card game of all time. I have the same thing about that, but it's definitely up there. The Bills, of course, went on to go to the Super Bowl. Jim Kelly returned later in the playoffs to lead the Bills to a Super Bowl where they got their asses handed to them by the Dallas Cowboys. The 92 Cowboys, one of the greatest teams ever. I'll put a link to that in the description down below as well. Jim Kelly got hurt that game. Frank Reich thought he was going to work his magic again. Well, didn't happen, obviously. But tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. Is it the greatest wildcard game ever? Is it one of the greatest games ever? In 2019, during the NFL's 100th anniversary, this game was, I believe, ranked in the top 10 games of all time out of the 100 greatest games ever. I believe this game was number 10, if I remember correctly. But tell me what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe, and I'm going to see you all.